Hello there. My name is Doreen Fernandez, and I'm super pumped to be presenting RevoHub's masterclass on strategizing your career pivot and also talking about narrating the pivot for you as you look into pivoting in your career. We will be talking about communicating career transitions with clarity, confidence, and impact. So sit back and relax and let's get started. So, a little bit about what we will be covering in the masterclass. We're going to be talking about who it's for, what you will walk away with, and the research that was done behind the scenes to bring us this masterclass today. We know that professionals navigate their career changes. They're looking at upskilling into clean tech, ESG, sustainability, or even digital roles, or re entering the workforce after a gap. It can be intimidating. It can make you feel unsure, but there is a strategy, there is a way around it. And what you will be walking away with today are some specific details and strategy around how to make your pivot successful. So you are going to be building a fully personal pivot narrative. And we're going to be looking at your transferable skills, how you answer questions in an interview. And we're also going to be walking through a 30, 60-day action plan. And you also will be given a workbook that you can work through to get all of your answers down correctly. And the research that was done behind the scenes is built from McKinsey Global Institute, Harvard Business Review, LinkedIn Workforce Report in 2024, and also looking at adult learning theory. So some of the objectives of this masterclass that you will be able to do is first, diagnose the strategic gap between where you are and where you want to go. I think that is the first step, and it's a big step. It's the key to get it all started. I think about us as human beings that we weren't just put on this planet to just get a job and stick to it. There's so much out there. And how do you know if you will be able to do it if you don't try? It could feel overwhelming, but walking through this workshop today, you're going to feel empowered. You're going to feel that you have a way to get around those obstacles. So we will be applying a proven four-part framework to build your pivot narrative, which is really, really essential when you're out there communicating your value to people and how you want to be perceived. We're going to reframe your past experience using a specific action, impact, and relevance formula. And that's going to be really exciting to look at not just what you've done, but what type of impact did you make for where you were and relating it to the new employer's requirements. How do you respond confidently to why are you changing careers in any interview? That's a really key question that's asked in a lot of interviews is why do you want to work here? Why are you changing lanes? So we're going to give you that information on how to answer that correctly. Communicate your value in employer language. Now, keep in mind, the employer is looking to see what's in it for them. What do you bring to the table? So, in essence, what is their return on investing in you? What outcomes can you provide to them as an organization? And what is your capability? And that all forms part of your pivot narrative. Execute a 30, 60-day action plan that moves your pivot forward. So this action plan is going to give you specific details as to what you need to do step by step, guiding you along the way to reach that goal and ultimately your new job in a new area. So let's quickly touch upon the roadmap of what we will be covering in this workshop. In part one, we will be looking at strategizing your career pivot. And we're going to look at the psychology behind it, the strategy and mapping. We're going to look at the career pivot landscape, some of the data behind the scenes, the drivers, and the strategic case scenarios. And we're going to look at skill cartography, mapping what you have now and where you want to go with your skills. And where can you go with your skills? And then the activity part is going to be pivot readiness audit, your personal self-assessment exercise that's going to show you what your skills are, where your strengths are, and how can you use that to your advantage when you pivot. And then in part two, we're going to look at narrating your pivot, looking at the framework, the language that you use, and the interview, as well as how you can use your narrative in the interview. In module 3, we're going to look at narrative engineering. It's a 4-part pivot story framework. In module 4, we're going to look at interview positioning. How do you answer questions structurally and strategically? And use real examples. And that's going to be the key in storytelling in an interview, is how do you use real life examples of what you did and how you can apply it to this new area. And then you will be doing an activity to build your narrative, writing out and refining your pivot story. And of course, at the end, we're going to close with a quick action plan and a workbook, which will be your 30, 60-day execution roadmap that you will be applying to your career pivot. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to read a little quote here that kind of lines up with what we're trying to build. The future belongs to those who can tell the story of their evolution, not just list the chapters of their past. This becomes a really strong anchor for your career pivot narrative. Is not just saying what you've done before, but talking about what you bring to the table because of what you've done before, what skills that you bring to the table, and how you can apply it strategically and professionally to your new environment. So let's go. So let's talk about strategizing your career pivot. So here's some statistics for you. When we look at the career pivot landscape, did you know that 49% of workers globally will need reskilling by 2030? So you're in the right place. If you're here right now watching this masterclass brought to you by RevoHub, career pivots are not going to be a nice to have, or should I do it or should I not do it? This is going to be essential when we look at the environment moving forward. The professional environment is going to need reskilling because of all the changes that are happening globally. 1 in 3 professionals will change their career field in the next 5 years. And what that tells me is that in 5 years or longer, there's going to be more than just 1 in 3. There's $2 trillion worth of global education and training market. Pivots are the growth engine. So let's take advantage of that. Let's take advantage of what's out there in terms of training and how you can get more education and get you prepared for the pivot that you're looking for. Now, 70% of career changers say they lack narrative clarity, and that was their #1 barrier. So aren't you glad you're here today sitting through this masterclass? Because this is going to give you that narrative clarity that you need so that you can apply it to your any kind of interaction, whether it's in a networking event or in an interview. So why do career pivots fail, or why do they seem so daunting? Why do people kind of hang back and say, well, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I have the skills to do that. Well, if you don't try, you will never know. When you think about, when you graduated high school, you came out of there with no real corporate skills. And you just kind of take the first retail job that you can get because it's easy. They hire students and you work at it until, a year goes by, a few months go by, a few years go by, and then you realize this is not for me. What else could I be doing out there that will bring me some joy in my life, some excitement? What can I really do to apply who I am and what my skills are? So why it fails for a lot of people is that, they waste time waiting, wondering, worrying. They fail because there's no clear narrative for them. They don't know how to apply what they have experienced into something real. So what do you do instead is we're going to build a 4-part pivot story, which we'll cover in module 3, that's going to create that narrative for you. How do you talk about what you bring? Why it fails again is underselling your transferable skills. Sometimes I find that people don't even know what their transferable skills are. But when you take the time to sit down and really map it out and think about, who are you? What have you done? What is the skill? And sometimes maybe even having that conversation with someone else who knows you will see in you what you yourself didn't see in yourself. So it's a very, very first important step is to build your skills inventory. And then we will apply the action, impact, and relevance formula so that you will have something tangible in your hands to use. Using old industry language is not going to do you any favors. Things have changed. Times have changed. We have evolved so much and so fast in the last few years that when you look back a few years ago, things are not done the same way. People don't even speak the same way anymore. So we're going to talk about speaking the employer language. Remember, they want the return on investment for them. They want the outcome for their organization to be successful. So that's what we have to focus on. How do we use that narrative to build that bridge to shorten that gap so that they will look at you as somebody who they want on their team? A lot of people fail because they're waiting to be ready. What are you waiting for? There's no hard and fast rule that says, well, you have to wait 3 months or a year or 2 years. The time is in your hands. You are the driver of your life. You make the decision. You are in control over when you want to change and what you want to change to. There's no harm in trying. So don't let time hold you back. It's just a waste. So what we will do is we'll look at the strategic micro steps in a 30 and 60-day plan and outline specific steps as to what you can do, what you can take to get this started, one day at a time, one task at a time. People always tend to ignore their networking capital. They forget about who's around them, whether it's family, friends, someone that they've worked with. That is gold. Those connections can open doors for you. So don't forget that. So we will we will look at you conducting 5 informational interviews in 60 days. And using that narrative that we've now created and taking it forward into your informational meetings so that you can start to use that language and it becomes familiar to you. And you're able to, with ease, have a conversation with someone and tell them why you are a great candidate to do this pivot. Remember, there's nothing holding you back. We're going to look at the strategic pivot framework. First, we're going to help you diagnose. And by diagnose, we're going to look at where you are right now in your career compared to where you want to go. And we're going to identify the gap. So where you are now and where you want to go. So what's in between? In between is that gap that you're missing. And how do you leap from one part of that bridge to the other part? That means we're going to look at your skills, your network, your credentials, and your narrative. How are you going to talk about what you have done and what it resulted in? We're going to help you map out what do you have in your back pocket right now that will help you transfer and pivot into this new arena. We're going to look at your inventory of skills, the roles that you have performed, your achievements, and the achievements is a really key component to this as well, with fresh eyes. Things that you've never considered before, you are going to use that to your advantage now. Once we've armed you with the right tools and the right framework, there's going to be no stopping you now. You are armed and you are dangerous, my friend. So use that to your advantage. Then we're going to cross that bridge. What do you need to add for anything that's missing, that's needed in your new environment? We're going to look at perhaps micro credentials that you may need to add to your repertoire, maybe volunteering in organizations so that you can gather information and gather additional skills that's needed to enter into the new arena. And we're also going to be looking at informational interviews, how to use those to your advantage, how to connect with the right people that will give you what you need to understand what is needed in this next role. So once you know that, then it becomes easy to cross that bridge. You know exactly what you need, and you know exactly what you have to do to enter into that pivot or to make that pivot even possible. We talk a lot about narrating your pivot, and this becomes essential when you look at, okay, how I know who I am, I know what I have, I know what I need to do to build the gap or to close the gap. Now, how do I verbalize that? How do I take that forward into the real world and apply that narrative to someone who will possibly open that door for me? So we're going to look at how to tell your story in a very compelling way. And we will build a four-part framework on how to speak the employer language. So that's going to be really exciting. And then the last part, once you have all of that down pat, you're going to run with it. You're going to execute it. You're going to use that 30, 60-day plan to move forward with real, live, tangible actions that you're going to be accountable for. And it's going to give you the various checkpoints that you need to do to get there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about skills cartography. So we're going to look at what you have right now and where you are going, or where do you want to go. So there's three zones that we're going to be looking at. The first zone is the direct transfer. So you're going to be looking at very similar roles to where you are right now. That's going to be directly linked to the next job that you get. And examples of that would be things like leadership and management. So if you are in a leadership or management capacity now, and you want something similar in a leadership and management capacity in your next role, that's going to be an easier pivot than jumping into something completely different, because you have it, you're going to apply for something similar. It may make it a little bit easier for you to get across that bridge. Project coordination is another type of direct transfer. Stakeholder communication. Now, communication is going to be essential no matter which role that you're applying for, whether it's relevant to where you are right now or totally irrelevant to where you are now. Communicating your worth, communicating your value, and communicating your accomplishments is going to be key. We're going to look at also data analysis, and training and facilitation are type of roles that are similar that you can make that transition easily as well. So zone 2 is the frameable category. So something like customer service can lead to something like CX design. Or if you are in an administrative role right now, you can move into operations management roles. So it's not a direct transfer, but it's an easy transfer, or something that you can apply easily. Let's look at teaching. Teaching can lead into roles like learning and development or curriculum management. Sales can lead into business development type roles, and HR skills can lead into people and culture type roles. Now let's look at some of the bridge skills that are needed to move from one area to the other. So you may need industry specific certifications. Sometimes technical skills may prevent you from moving forward. You may have some fantastic soft skills like leadership, communication, or even technical skills like data analysis. But if you're looking for something completely different and your heart desires that, I really want to do this type of role because I love this area, you may need to get certified to show in your resume that, I believe in it so much, I want it so much that I took the time and I invested in myself and educated myself so that I can easily apply to this next role. And I need you to help me cross that bridge. Technical tooling is also key to some of the roles that are out there. As we advance technologically in the workforce today, technical skills become even more needed, more necessary for you to brush up on. Things like Power BI, using vocabulary and language relative to the role that you're applying for is going to be key, because you want to kind of, if they're looking for apples, you want to make sure you're giving them that shiny, juicy, crunchy apple. So using that kind of vocabulary and language makes it seem like you're already there. It makes it seem that you can easily fit into the team with what you're speaking right now in terms of their language. They will understand you and it will resonate with them. Network in your new field. My goodness, networking is going to be your bread and butter. If you are able to connect with the right people in the right area, that's what you need to get the doors open for you. So if you're looking to get into something very specific in a totally different area, make your connections, network with the people who are in that area already, and ask them information. Ask them, you know what skills are required to get into this role? Who do you know that you can introduce me to that can help me get there? How do I get there from where I am right now? Those networking connections become instrumental in your move forward. And build a portfolio project. You can look at volunteer roles. When you volunteer in an organization, the sky is the limit. Once you're in, you can learn, you can grow, you can meet the right people, you can uh, develop new skills, and you can also learn the language that they're speaking, right? So that all of those activities gets you closer to that pivot role that you want to get into. So we're going to walk through some specific examples of real people who have made changes, who have addressed career pivots to their advantage by using a very specific framework. So first, let's talk about Sarah. Sarah is a high school teacher, and what she wants to do is she wants to get into a role as an ESG program manager. Her background is 10 years teaching secondary school science, and she's really passionate about sustainability. However, she has no formal corporate experience. Now, that's a pretty big gap to fill. However, it's not impossible. You can do it if you apply the right format. So first, Sarah has to diagnose what her gap is. From where she is right now as a high school teacher, how is she going to make that huge leap over to being an ESG program manager? Well, she has no corporate credentials and she has no specific ESG title. However, what her strength is that she's got fantastic communication skills. She has curriculum design experience. She has data tracking and stakeholder management experience within her own community, such as parents, administration staff, as well as government liaisons that she may have worked with during her school tenure. So those are some pretty solid skills that she brings to the table. And then what are her skills? How does she map her skills to this new job? So the direct skills that she has is in program design, outcome tracking, facilitation. And how is she going to reframe that to the new area? Well, she can talk about her lesson planning skills that lead to curriculum and learning design and report card that she's built or executed for the students. She can use that or correlate that to ESG KPI reporting. So that's a really big component of mapping that. What skills does she have and how does she take it over to be an ESG program management? It's all about building the relevance. It's building the relevance so that you can say, hey, I did this before and I can easily do it there. And this is what I've done, and this is what I can do in the new area. So to build that bridge, or to cross that bridge, I should say, so she added GRI Standard Overview, which is a free online course that you can take. Now, LinkedIn Learning provides the ESG reporting course as well that you can take. And what she did too was volunteer for a local sustainability nonprofit organization to build her portfolio. So once she worked as a volunteer in this sustainability nonprofit group, She developed the skills that she needed to add to her portfolio to say, not only was I a teacher who did this, this, and this, I now volunteered at this organization and I have a new set of skills that's directly related to being an ESG program manager. So with all that in her hand, the narrative that we can use is specifically that she can say in an interview or in a networking environment, she can say, after 10 years designing science curricula for 500 students, I applied that systems thinking to ESG program design. I bridge data, compliance, and people. How fantastic is that narrative? From first, before diagnosing the situation, you now have this narrative that you can easily say, that flows off your tongue easily because you've got all of those components locked down. So Sarah landed an ESG program coordinator role at a mid-sized energy firm within 4 months of intentional pivoting. So being intentional about where you are now and where you need to be, it's easily done with the right steps that you take to bridge those gaps. So I hope you found that interesting and helpful. Let's move over to the next one. So the next case study is about a retail manager who wants to become an ESG analyst. So the background is the retail manager was someone by the name of James, who's 34 years old. He's a store manager at a national retail chain, and he's been there for 8 years. He has led a team of 22 employees, and he's managed a $2.4 million annual inventory budget, but he has no ESG credentials. So the pivot trigger for him is that his company introduced a sustainability reporting mandate, and James led the internal audit process and discovered he loved it and he was good at it. So what did he do? He enrolled in a GRI-aligned ESG fundamental course, which is a 12-hour online course, and he reframed his inventory control as resource efficiency. So this is where learning the language of your new area becomes essential. If you can reframe what you're doing right now into the language that is being used in your new area of interest, that is going to bring you closer to the opportunity. So like he did, he had inventory control experience, but he relabeled it as resource efficiency and resource efficiency management. And this is what made the new area set up and take interest in him because he was speaking their language. He went directly to the heart of the issue and said, I have this. You're looking for it. I have it. And then he also rewrote his LinkedIn using the ESG language. And we'll talk a little bit more about your LinkedIn headline, for a little further down, and how you're going to make that transition and change so that people notice you on LinkedIn. So the narrative that he used to bridge that gap is, I've spent 8 years managing resource allocation and operational efficiency for a $2.4 million supply chain. I'm now applying that lens to ESG compliance and sustainability reporting. Great, right up his alley, right up their alley. And the outcome is that he was hired as a junior ESG analyst at a real estate firm within 3 months. He got a 22% increase in his salary, and he's now pursuing an SASB certification part-time. How great is that? So once you're in at the ground level, that's your main goal, is to just get in there. Once you're in there, then the sky's the limit. You can go for further accreditation, further certification, learn more, grow more, develop more, and then go for some other roles that may catch your interest. But the key is to get in there first. The key is to make sure the door is open for you so you can enter into the new area. And it's doable, as you can see in these case studies. So we're going to take a look at another case study with a newcomer, and she wants to become a workforce tech consultant. So Priya is our person who we're talking about right now. She is 41 and she is a finance manager from India with 12 years of experience. She immigrated to Canada in 2022. So the first challenge, and we've heard this over and over again from many, many people, is that Canadian employers, they didn't recognize her credentials. She was told that she lacked Canadian experience, and she faced a systems barrier that is faced by 60% of newcomers. And that statistic comes from the IRCC 2023. How do you overcome that? That is a big hurdle to overcome. However, if you reframe it and if you use the right words, if you use the key words, and if you talk about not just what you've done, but what it resulted in and what you can do for their organization, that's going to remove that barrier. How you communicate your worth and how you communicate your value is going to make them want to listen to you because you are saying something that they are interested in and they need for their organization. So how did she reframe that? Right? So that was the challenge. Now we're going to look at the reframing of her situation. So Priya reframed her 12-year finance career as cross-border financial systems expertise. Wow, that's a mouthful. But doesn't that sound amazing? Rather than just say it was a 12-year finance career, she said she had experience as a cross-border financial systems expertise. She led an IFRS to GAAP transition project that she had never foregrounded. So let's look at the bridge. How did she cross that bridge and close that gap? She enrolled in a RevoHub digital transformation learning path. She connected with Access Employment, and she secured a volunteer CFO advisory role at a local nonprofit organization. She did this to build her portfolio, to show that she added more to it and she learned more to her skills and has more to add to her portfolio so that she can provide or contribute more to this organization. And the narrative that she used is, she said, I bring 12 years of financial system leadership across regulatory environments, including navigating an IFRS to GAAP transition for an $80 million portfolio. I'm now applying that to help Canadian SMEs operationalize financial tech adoption. So she had what she had. She took the credentials course, built that into the portfolio and added to her resume as to what she's done and how she can apply that to Canadian small, medium enterprises to help them with their financial tech adoption. Now, as if you were an employer, wouldn't that be amazing to you? Wouldn't you be impressed with that person's resume and how they can articulate what they bring to the table and how great they would be in your organization? Yes, you would be. So the outcome after Priya did all of these wonderful things, she was hired as a workforce tech consultant at a Canadian SaaS firm. Her limitation became her strength. So again, it's all in the reframing. It's all in the using the right verbiage. It's getting your credentials aligned with what they need and what they're looking for. And it's having your narrative frame that people just can't walk away from you. By using that right narrative and reframing everything in terms of what they want and what they need is going to make you successful in your career pivot. So take some time and digest this information. Take some time and think about you right now, where you are, where you want to go next, and how you're going to look at the challenge, how you are going to reframe that challenge, how are you going to cross that bridge, how are you going to formulate the narrative that you are going to use, and you want that outcome. And when you are intentional about these steps, when you are intentional about reaching those goals with the right framework, the right tools, and the right assets, nothing is going to stop you. It's going to happen. Okay, so let's take a look at the activity to get you pivot ready for your next role. I'd like you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 on each of these dimensions that I'm going to cover next. And I want you to be honest with yourself. Okay. This is not a test. This is just a diagnosis for you to understand and realize where you are right now. So I want you to look at your narrative clarity. How are you going to articulate what you want and where you want to go? I want you to build a list of your transferable skills. So this is going to take some awareness on your part. It's going to take some thinking. And again, as I mentioned previously, you may want to talk to people uh, right now who are around you, whether it's coworkers, family, and friends, and ask them what they see in you. What skills do they see in you that you don't see in yourself? So build that list, build that inventory of your skills. Target role clarity. Find out, what do you want to do? What sort of roles do you want to apply to? Look at your network depth. Who is in your network right now? Who is in your network that you can easily speak with to get more information? Who in your network can help you to get to opening more doors for you? Do you have the right credentials that are needed to get into that next role? If you may have amazing transferable skills, you may have some amazing accomplishments, but if you're missing a critical component, if that new role requires you to be certified in something, then you need to add that to your portfolio and onto your resume. So take a look at what you need to get there. And then also look at your digital and LinkedIn presence. Does your LinkedIn profile say that you are an accomplished person in the area that you want to get into? Or does it talk more about where you are right now? Because those are two different things. If you want to make headway by using LinkedIn, so when people are searching for you online, that they find you with the right headline, with the right credentials, with the right keywords that are needed to get into that new role. So for your narrative clarity, you're going to ask yourself, can I articulate why I'm pivoting in 60 seconds in a compelling way? This is going to take some time, and time yourself. Put that timer on. Sometimes people tend to ramble. People tend to use too many words out of nervousness. Try and condense that down into 60 seconds, right? And then we're going to score that or evaluate how that's going to sound. For your transferable skills awareness, have you mapped what you do and what your target role actually needs? That's a great exercise to start with. For targeting your role clarity, do you know exactly which 3 to 5 roles that you're targeting and why you want to target those roles? So start doing some research. Start looking on LinkedIn or Indeed or any kind of job board. Start looking at what jobs are out there and look at what the requirements are in those job boards. What are they telling you that these employers are looking for? For your network, do you have at least 3 contacts in your target field that you could reach out to today? So take a look at your network. And if you want to go from where you are now to where you want to be, who do you know in the new arena that can help you with that information? For credential readiness, what are you missing in terms of certification or credentials that the employers need? Once you build that into your portfolio and into your list of accomplishments, you are now armed and ready to go forward. And for your digital or LinkedIn presence, does your LinkedIn headline just talk about where you are now, or does it talk about what you are ready for in your next step to get to your new role? So you have to be clear on that as well. So take some time, answer this audit, readiness audit, take, a few minutes to write down, because when you write things down, things become more clear. And once you write it down, you will see it's like, it's in black and white. It's right there in front of you. It's like, wow, I'm ready to go. So let's go. So we are Wow, we've covered a lot of ground. We've covered a lot of information, but it's good. It's great information. And I'm just so excited for you to be able to use that information and apply it to your next exciting role. We are already at part two of this workshop, and we are going to talk about narrating the pivot, which is going to give you some more confidence. It's going to give you some more tools and information that you need to make this work for you. So let's go. So here's a nice little quote for you to get us started. We are all authors of our own career stories. The difference between candidates who get hired and those who don't is not their experience, it's the coherence and confidence of the story they tell. I love, love, love this quote because what it tells me is that you could have a PhD in something, but if you cannot tell it in a nice story that's going to grab the listener's attention, it means nothing. So learn to tell your story. Learn to tell your story in an amazing way, just like in a book or just like in a movie. You are you know, you are so engrossed in the story that you love it and you want to keep reading or you want to keep watching the movie because it's so amazing. And the same rules should apply for you when you are talking to someone, maybe in a networking session or in an interview. So, learning to tell your story is going to be crucial for you to get that role because you want the listener, who's the hiring manager, to resonate with your story and realize that, oh, this person's amazing. I want them on my team. So let's go. Let's dive into this and see how we do that. So we are at module 3, which we're going to talk about the 4-part pivot narrative framework. So this framework is going to help you build that narrative for yourself. Okay, so it's going to be, if you are unsure of anything, if you are wondering how to make this real and credible, this is the page that's going to take you there. So we're going to look at your past, which is what have you done? You've led with impact. There's no job titles right now that you have under your new area. And quantify where possible. Focus on the outcomes, not the tasks. And what I mean by that is use numbers and percentages to illustrate that picture, right? We talked about storytelling and how important storytelling is. Instead of you saying that I was a project manager, you can say, I led a $50 million project across the world, across the globe, and there were 25 stakeholders involved, and I completed my part of the project on time and on budget, saving the company $5 million. So you see, when you put those numbers into play and those percentages, it builds the picture in that person's mind. Now they have something to sink their teeth into. So from rather just saying I was a project manager, if you build in those numbers and percentages and show the impact that you made, now they want to listen to some more. Okay. So when you're looking at the pivot, they're wondering, why are you shifting? Why do you want to go from where you are now to where you are here? So you need to make it strategic, not personal. Connect a gap that you observed to a solution you chose. So don't say that I needed change. Okay, so how you can reframe that is, I identified that sustainability skills were the fastest growing gap and the most underserved. So right then and there, you're showing them that you're not bored where you were, you're not unhappy where you were. You realize that there was a need and you are excited about filling that need. What are you doing now? Your present situation. So show intentionality. Name the credential, project, or experience that bridges your move. So what are you working on right now, or what have you worked on? What type of project? What type of credentials do you have that is going to be really critical in this new role? And the employer needs to see the action, not just the aspiration. So when you talk about what you have done, show the action. What steps did you take to make that successful. And by you leading it, by you managing it, by you coordinating it, what did it result in for the organization? Did you save time? Did you save money? Did you increase productivity? Did you increase customer satisfaction? So show all of that in your story narrative. So you can say something like, I'm now completing an ESG certification while advising a climate nonprofit on their workforce strategy. So you're having something, you're showing something tangible, something real, something that you have accomplished in this new environment. And the value is what you bring. This is your differentiator. This is what is going to make you stand out of the crowd compared to other candidates. What do you offer that a typical candidate in this role cannot do? Cross-sector insight is rare and powerful. So when you know what this new organization needs, always apply what you have to how you are going to solve their need. How are you going to close that gap for them? How are you going to add value and use specifics? And you, as an example, you can say, I bring operational depth, systems thinking, and a talent for translating complex concepts into scalable programs. Wow, that's pretty powerful. You are telling them exactly what you can do for them and why they should hire you. So we're going to look at narrative comparison, the wrong way to say something and then the right way or the strong way to say something. And this is going to help put things in perspective for you as you come up with your own examples for your narrative. Okay. So in an interview, you may be asked a question like, why are you changing careers? So a weak way to say it or the wrong way to say it would be, I wanted to change after feeling stuck in my old job for a while. So that's an emotional response, right? But you want to make it strategic. You want to make it relevant. So the right way or the stronger way to say that would be after 8 years in supply chain operations, I identified that ESG reporting was the strategic gap no one was solving well. And I had exactly the operational lens to do it. Fantastic. So you're taking the emotion out of it that you didn't like it or you hated it, you're bored, and you've pivoted it into something that is more meaningful to the organization. You've identified the gap and you've taken steps to address the gap. That's pretty powerful. So if you're taking a look at maybe what's in your resume or in your LinkedIn profile, you can say, I manage schedules and help the team with day-to-day tasks. Now that's pretty weak. That doesn't really say much. But the stronger way to say it is, I coordinated cross-functional workflows for a 22-person team, reducing process delays by 30%, which I now apply directly to program management. Like, wow, there's those numbers again. There's those percentages again that paint the picture, that tells the story. So learn to tell your story using those numbers and percentages in a strong way. Now, another example we can take a look at is in a cover letter or in a networking scenario. You can say, I'm looking for opportunities and sustainability because I care about the environment. Well, that's all well and good, but where's the impact in that statement? A stronger way to say it is, I bring a decade of operational systems experience, specifically in sustainability program design, and I'm looking for a role where I can deliver measurable ESG outcomes. That's pretty powerful too, because you're telling them that you're bringing a decade of this experience and you're specifically looking at sustainability program design, which is the area that you want to get into. And you're looking for a role where you can deliver measurable outcomes. And that just shows your interest, it shows your strength, it shows your seriousness into getting into that area. And I'm sure that's going to impress them a lot more than saying that you care about the environment. So let's take a look at interview positioning, okay? In this part 3, we're going to look at answer structure for why are you changing careers. Sometimes people stumble over that as to, why you are changing careers because they really don't know how to answer that question. But let's take a look at a more meaningful and stronger way to say it. So, strategic reason for you to answer that question as to why you're changing careers is anchor in observation or insight, not emotion or dissatisfaction. What did you see in the market, in your workplace, or in your community that made this shift inevitable? So, in other words, what have you experienced that's making you want that change? So, don't say something like, I was bored, I needed growth, my company had issues. You really have to find that meaning. What does that organization need? Apply your relevance positioning to their relevance positioning. Part two, or relevant experience, immediately bridge your past to the new role. Name 1 to 2 specific experiences that directly prepared you and use metrics and numbers where possible. Tell your story. So don't anchor this to a real result, which resulted in X. Really talk about what have you encountered? What have you experienced? And why that is making you move into this new area because you're so passionate about solving this problem for them. Don't forget, the reason that this job exists is because there's a gap. There is a problem. They need that candidate to come in and fix that problem for them and solve that problem for them. And that's where you talk about how you're going to solve that problem for them because you've done it before and you can easily apply it to the new area. So for future alignment, show that you've done your homework. Reference the company, the role, or the sector's direction, and connect your pivot with where they want to go. Exactly. This is not about you, this is about them. So in an interview, you have to make it about how, they have the issue, they have the problem, but you have the solution. Okay. So research the company's sustainability, ESG, and tech roadmap before the interview. Find out as much as you can about this role. Why is the role available? What challenges are they facing in the role right now that they need to solve? What takes up most of their time? What is it about past candidates that didn't bring to the role what they need? What were they lacking? You need to find out what that lack is and then what you're going to do to solve that. That's how you position yourself for future alignment. Okay, so in activity 2, we're going to build your pivot and narrative. So I'm going to go through a few points and then take some time to really digest it. Think about how you will apply it to yourself. Okay, so I want you to write a 4-part narrative using the prompts that we're going to discuss now and aim for 3 to 4 sentences per part. Then you're going to share it and refine it. Okay, so the first part is looking at your past. What is the most impactful thing that you have done professionally? Okay, it's going to require some thinking. It's going to require some analysis. Write it down. Describe it in outcome terms. What changed because of your work? So oftentimes, we get into a job and we just do the job, but we don't document exactly what did we do? What sort of impact did we make for the organization? What was the outcome? And I think that's a really important thing to do, regardless of where you are, no matter what you're doing. Write down, document everything that you have done, everything that you have contributed to. That past contribution is going to be meaningful to your future. Okay, so the second thing is to look at the pivot. What specific gap or problem or insight led you to want to move into this new direction? Again, don't make it emotional, make it strategic and observed, that you realize that there was this gap and you're passionate about solving problems in this area, and you've taken the steps to address that weakness. Then we'll look at your present situation. What deliberate steps are you taking right now to make this pivot real? Did you take a course? Did you work on a specific project that's related to this new job? Did you network with the right people? Did you volunteer in an organization that helped you develop those skills to address those gaps? Did you get some really new certification that will show that you took an interest in this new area and you really want to apply all of these things that you've done in the past and all of these things that you've accumulated for yourself to move it forward into this new area? Okay. And then the value comes into play. What unique combination of skills and perspective do you bring that a typical applicant in this new field would not have? This is where networking with people in the new area becomes really, really important. Finding the right people who are going to tell you, you know what, I've worked in this area, I know the people there, and I know that this is the gap that they're facing. This is what you will need to do to bridge that gap. So when you find out that insider information, it's going to take you further forward, right? So what did the previous candidate not have that you can easily talk about that you do have that's going to make that employer want to hire you? So research, investigation, networking, all of this becomes critical for building that pivot narrative for you. So take some time to, like I said, digest this information. Look at your past, look at your present, look at the area you want to pivot to and how you will change things and add the value that previous candidates could not do, or maybe they're just looking for something fresh and new. Okay, so let's get working. So in activity 3, we're going to look at your LinkedIn headline and some of the challenges that people encounter with building that headline. I find that people don't use their LinkedIn in the proper way. Many times they build a LinkedIn profile, years go by, they don't do anything with it, they don't update it. It's just there because someone told them that it was a nice to have. But think about this. LinkedIn is a global platform. There's over 1 billion users across this platform globally. That means if there's over 1 billion users, how many opportunities could exist in the LinkedIn platform? So learn to use it wisely, learn to use it correctly. Now, LinkedIn, your headline and your photograph is the first thing that recruiters or hiring managers will see. So make sure that it's compelling, make sure it positions you in the right way, and that people don't assume the wrong thing about you. That's going to be a missed opportunity for you. When recruiters and hiring managers are looking for somebody on LinkedIn, they're not going to look at titles. They're going to use keywords relative to the industry that they're in that they want that candidate to have. Okay, so what do you do? Who do you serve? The outcome or the keywords and your transition intent. So if you already have an existing portfolio, existing LinkedIn headline that shows your old job and you want to move into something new, before the old way of thinking is you would put in your title that you were store manager, you worked in retail, or you have customer experience. But if you want to move into a new area, you want to pivot into a new area, you're going to use the keywords that are relative to your new area. Something like ESG analyst and sustainability advocate, resource efficiency and compliance, X retail ops. So it shows what you specialize in right now, which is you've taken your credentials, you've built your skills inventory, you know exactly what's needed for your new pivot role. And you've also mentioned that you are ex retail ops. That means you've done that before in your past, but your new headline reflects where you want to go and where you want to be. You could have been a high school teacher in the science department, but you want to move into a role as an ESG program designer. So that's what you want to put in there. You want your keyword to pop up on that search bar for that recruiter or hiring manager. They're going to type in ESG program designer. They're not going to type in high school teacher or science department. So make sure you add things that are relevant to the new job, like curriculum and workforce development, transitioning to clean tech. So that shows that you are in transition and you're moving into this environment for clean tech. Before, you could have been a finance manager specializing in IFRS or in the banking sector, but you want to now put your new title for your new area that you're pivoting to, which is a workforce tech consultant, financial systems and digital transformation, and you had or have 12 years of cross-border finance experience. So look at your LinkedIn headline. Take some time to think about what you have done, but the new area that you want to go into. Do some research, do some digging, network, ask people the questions as to, hey, what are they looking for in this new role here? What should I put on my LinkedIn headline that's going to draw attention? What keywords should I put in there? Or, Google it or ask ChatGPT for the new role that you want to pivot into. What skills are they looking for? And add that to your LinkedIn headline. But make sure it's substantiated. Make sure you've done it, or make sure that you're taking a course or acquiring the new accreditation that is necessary for this new role. Okay, make sense? Great. So let's take some time and work on that. Try to, and this, you know what, don't be afraid. It's okay. We're in this to learn together. Try out a few things, verbalize it with somebody else. When you say things out loud, it makes it more meaningful, it makes it more tangible. It may sound good or it may sound bad, but you will only know until you try it and do it. And there's nothing to say that it's going to be permanent. You can always change things as you change and as you evolve. So let's take the stab at doing that, and let's build your new LinkedIn headline. Okay, so we are going to do a little quiz that's going to raise some awareness about career changing, what you may or may not have known. And this is going to be a little bit of an eye-opener, a fun little quiz to do. So according to LinkedIn's 2024 Workforce Report, what percent of career changers cite narrative clarity as their #1 barrier? So that means that many people did not know how to articulate or narrate their story to be seen. Was it 45%, 70%, 88%, or 52%? It was a whopping 70%. So 70% of people felt that their career change narrative was their biggest hurdle to cross. And here you are learning exactly how to do that. So you're going to be one of the winners. You're going to be knowing exactly how to state your narrative. So in the 4-part pivot narrative, what comes immediately after past? We just finished that exercise. So in the 4-part pivot narrative, we learned that is it present, pivot, value, or purpose? What comes after past is the pivot. That's the next part that you have to look at. Number 3 is, what does the Action-Impact-Relevance formula help you do? Does it help you write a cover letter? Does it help you negotiate a salary? Does it help you reframe experience in employer language or build a portfolio? And yes, the answer is C. The Action, Impact, and Relevance formula helps you to reframe your experience in employer language. Number 4, which of these is a zone 2 or reframable skill? Is it leadership, teaching, ESG certification, or Power BI? The answer is teaching. That leads into L&D. So that is the reframable skill, going from teaching into learning and development. And the last question in this quiz is, when answering why are you pivoting, what should you never anchor in your answer? Is it market gap you observed, a skill you want to use more, personal dissatisfaction or emotion, or a company strategic direction. So you should never say anything emotional, but make it strategic. And that would be C, personal dissatisfaction or emotion. Never use that as your answer in that question as to why you are pivoting. I hope that helps to resonate more with you and sink in more in terms of what you've learned so far. Okay, so we're getting into an exciting part here where we're looking at some specific action plans for you. What should you do within the next 30 days? And what should you do with beyond the 30 to 60-day mark? Okay, so in the next 30 days, what you will be looking at is finalizing your 4-part pivot narrative, written and spoken. So write down your narrative. How are you going to bridge that gap to where you were and where you want to go? Rewrite your resume using action, impact, and relevance formula. What action did you take? What was the impact? And how is it relevant to what the new employer needs and wants? Rebuild your LinkedIn headline and summary to reflect your pivot. So look at those keywords, add that to your LinkedIn headline, and formulate your summary that talks about what your strengths are, what you bring from your old role, and why you are passionate about moving into this new role. What have you done to get accredited for it and be ready for the new job? Next, you will identify 3 to 5 target roles with job description analysis. So start researching, start taking a look at what's on the LinkedIn job boards, other job boards like Indeed, Workopolis. Read some of those jobs that are available and find 3 to 5 roles that interest you. Read through those job descriptions, analyze what's in them. Look at what the need is. Look at what the skills are that is required for the job. Look at what the employer is looking for. You have to kind of read between the lines here and figure out where the gaps are. And once you figure out what the weakness or the gap is that the employer is trying to solve, then you will know more moving forward on how to use that language in the interview. Apply the action impact relevance to the top 5 bullets. So make sure that when you're fixing your resume is using that action impact relevance in your experience and your accomplishment section on your resume. Begin one micro credential in the field that you want to get into. So now that you've identified what you need to get into your new pivot role, and if you need specific credentials to get it, start building it. Take a course, look at what LinkedIn is offering or any other type of roles. There's so many educational programs out there. Find what you need. And again, tap into your network. Ask them what they know about what's needed in your new role. And you've got all the information now done in your 30-day action plan. Then you move into your next 30 to 60-day action plan. So the first thing you should do is conduct 5 informational interviews with people in your target roles. So reach out to people, whether it's on LinkedIn, grow your network, ask them, for a 20-minute chat over coffee, whether it's in person or online, and use those information sessions to your advantage. Don't just waste time. Go prepared for those information sessions. Treat the information sessions as if it were an interview. Come across polished, come across professional, write down notes, come prepared with questions, and it's going to impress people. It's going to help them to realize that you're serious, that you're professional, and that you bring something to the table that is really required for that next role. And what they will want to do then is introduce you to other people with ease. So show up the right way in those informational interviews. Refine your narrative based on actual feedback from real conversations. So now that you've met with these people in the informational interviews or meetings, you've learned something. You've uncovered what what's needed in this new role. You've identified who some of the key players are. You've identified what skills are required to fill that gap and what you can do and how you can take what you have right now and apply it to what they're looking for. So refine your narrative, build your narrative around what you've learned. Build one portfolio project, a case study, or volunteer proof point. So volunteer in an organization that's related to the area that you want to get into and pull from there what you need. Find out what that gap is and build that gap filler, right? Add that to your portfolio of what you need to show as proof that you've done it as a volunteer in this organization. Attend to industry events, attend webinars or professional groups. This is going to be great. Another way, it's just another type of informational interview as well. You're attending industry specific things to find out more about what's going on in the industry. And this is going to help you in the interview as well, because you've done it, you've been there, you can speak to it professionally and relevantly, right? So it's not something that you're making up. It's not something that you're guessing at. It's something specific that you've done to help you get closer to this opportunity. So use that to your advantage. Then apply 15 to 20 aligned roles with tailored narratives. So look at those job boards, as I said, research them, find out what the requirements are, right? And apply to them using your new narrative, your new titles, your new credentials that you've earned or received. Add all of that into your new story that you're going to tell. And then track response rates. What are people saying to you after you apply? Are you getting noticed? Are you not getting noticed? What is working well? What is not working well? For the things that are not working well, work on those areas. Fine tune it a bit more. Adjust your narrative if you don't receive a good response from them. Maybe something needs to be changed. Find out what needs to be changed. So this 30 and 60-day action plan are going to give you specific tasks. What you once looked at as, oh my gosh, this is a huge mountain to climb, I can't get there. You can do it. These are specific actionable plans that you can take one step at a time, one day at a time, but it will get done, right? As they say, if you measure it, it will get done. So start the action plan today. Take some time and think about how you're going to add these tasks to your action plan. What do you need? We've given you specifics as to what you need to do. So write it down and let's get started on making your 30 and 60-day plan. Let's go. Here's some other resources that you can use to help you get closer to your new pivot opportunity. There's books you can read, there's research and reports that you can look at, and also online learning. So books, you can look at books that, Working Identity by Herminia Ibarra. That's from the Harvard Business School Press. Pivot by Jenny Blake. Designing Your Life, Burnett and Evans. The Alliance by Reid Hoffman. So those are some interesting books that you can read that's going to help you learn more about career pivoting, your work identity, and what's going on in the world today. Research and reports could be the WEF Future of Jobs report in 2023, the McKinsey Global Institute Jobs Lost, Jobs Gained in 2024. Another research report could be the LinkedIn Workforce Insights report in 2024 and the Holon IQ Global Education Intelligence 2024. So between the books and the research and reports is going to give you a ton of information that you can use to build your narrative. And there's online learning. There's Coursera. You can take career development specialization. There's LinkedIn Learning, all kinds of career and transition toolkits. There's the RevoHub Learning Marketplace, which is also a great resource for you to tap into. And the GRI Academy Sustainability Reporting Fundamentals, which is free. So there's so much at your fingertips. There's so much that you can read, you can watch, you can learn, just all online or at your fingertips. So there's no reason why you can't move forward into creating your pivot narrative or into figuring out how to bridge that gap between where you are and where you need to go. Let's go. Your career is not defined by where you started. It is defined by how clearly you can articulate where you are going and why you are the right person to get there. And that is exactly what we have just covered in the last little while, is determining who you are, what skills you have, what accomplishments have you obtained. But not just that, it's about being able to verbalize it. It's being able to articulate it so that it resonates with the listener. It resonates with the hiring manager or the recruiter, that shows you are exactly the right person for the job. You've done your homework, you've done the legwork, you've researched, you've read books and articles, and you've taken online courses. You know how to speak the language now. You know what keywords are needed to put into your resume, put into your LinkedIn headline, to use in conversations that you have with people in your network, or the hiring manager. So you want to tell them you are the right person for the job because you have the skills, you've done it, you've made an impact, it's resulted in something specific and tangible, and you can apply it to this new area, even though it is not related to where you came from before. You can do it. We've given you the right tools. We've given you the right tasks that you can build your plan on. So now take it forward and keep going. Good luck.